pump or not. And that's just on the economic front, right? They're trying to give tax breaks to the wealthy, big corporations, protecting gun rights groups, while we are focused on doing the exact opposite. And at a time where, quite frankly, there is a lot of foreign policy stuff going on. There's economic stuff going on. We need a leader that has experience in doing that, and Joe Biden has that. And so our campaign is going to continue to double down, communicate on what the president has done, try to draw that correlation and make sure that Americans know that the president is doing it, and honestly continue to address other things that Americans are bringing to us day in and day out with what they feel about the direction of this country, and try to address those as he and the vice president promised they would do.
That's Quentin Fulks, Principal Deputy Campaign Manager for the Biden campaign, speaking with us from Tuscaloosa, Alabama, where a Republican presidential debate is happening tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Art.
Statin medications are extremely effective in lowering cholesterol and preventing heart attacks. But a study published in the Annals of Internal Medicine finds that only about 1/3 of people eligible to take them actually do. NPR's Allison Aubrey reports.
The FDA approved the first commercial statin medication back in the late 1980s. And since that time, there's been a lot of evidence that the medications can significantly reduce the risk of having a heart attack or a stroke, says primary care doctor Tim Anderson of the University of Pittsburgh.
Generally, statins, when taken regularly, will drop cholesterol levels 30 to 40%. Statins are the most effective tool in our toolkit to try to help folks reduce that chance of a heart attack or a stroke down the road.
Yet millions of people who could benefit don't use them. And Anderson wanted to nail this down. So he and his collaborators analyzed data from the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey. They found that over the last 10 years, the use of statins, even for primary prevention, meaning among those who've not yet had a heart attack or stroke, but are at high risk, has trailed off. Only about 35% of people who are eligible use them, even as generic versions have lowered the cost of the medicines.
What's surprising here is that it's fully leveled off, and that has even happened as statins have become more affordable. And so that leveling off is quite surprising.
There are a bunch of reasons why people who are eligible may not take statins. Some are not aware they could benefit. In primary care visits, providers can calculate a patient's 10-year risk of having a cardiovascular event, which is one measure used to determine who's a good candidate to be on a statin.
As we age, most, if not all, folks' cholesterol slowly rises, even with a healthy lifestyle. And so one of the reasons we talk about cholesterol in folks in their 40s, 50s, and 60s is really that even with healthy lifestyle, we know cholesterol levels and that risk creep up.
Some people hesitate to take a statin due to concerns about side effects, but Anderson says doses can be adjusted to minimize this, and most people tolerate the medications. Other people turn to lifestyle changes in lieu of medicines.
For some patients, we can reduce cholesterol through things like changing diet and regular exercise, but for many folks, even when following those heart healthiest diets, cholesterol often still runs in families, and there's a genetic component to that.
So it may be hard to bring down levels enough. Anderson says understanding the risks and benefits of statins is something people can ask their providers about before their risk creeps up. Allison Aubrey, NPR News.
You're listening to All Things Considered from NPR News.
The Facebook tool that's tracking kids from kindergarten to college. From American Public Media, this is Marketplace Tech. I'm Lily Jamali.
Opportunities previously only available to banks and accredited investors. More at climatise.earth/marketplace.
For years, Facebook and Instagram parent Meta has offered a code called Pixel to businesses. By embedding Pixel on their websites, those businesses can collect information on users, then target them with ads on Meta's social media platforms. The investigative news website The Markup has been looking into how along the way, some of the personal information Pixel gathers gets shared back with the tech giant. Meta says its policies make clear advertisers should not send sensitive information about customers through its business tools, but Colin Letcher, co-author of a new Markup investigation, is now reporting that students are among those the Pixel code tracks.
These pixels are on millions of websites, and we've been kind of investigating for the past year what these websites are. So we found it on tax filing websites, we found it on hospital websites.
Yeah.
Most recently, we took a look at education-related websites, right? So we found that a lot of places where students regularly visit, for example, the official ACT website or a bunch of learning educational websites for younger kids, were using the pixel and sending some potentially sensitive information to Meta through it.
What exactly do we know then about what Facebook, parent company Meta, what do they do with this information?
Well, it's a really interesting point because it seems like even Facebook's own engineers don't necessarily know what happens with this information. But so all of this information gets transmitted to Facebook. These millions of websites around the internet are tracking visitors. They send the information to Facebook. And what Facebook really gets out of it is essentially a chance to build demographic profiles of people, right? And if anyone wants to reach out to people who are interested in buying sneakers, then they can do that, right? So if I'm just a athletic wear company, right, I can log into Facebook and I can just say, I really want to reach this pool of people, and Facebook has all the information that I need to do that.
I want to ask you, what are the implications of having a tracker like this be able to collect and then share this information with Facebook?
One thing I think I really learned more about is that it kind of exposes the holes in the regulatory system for online privacy in the United States. There's effectively no federal privacy law that affects broadly the entire population, that sort of like protects information for anyone who goes online. And so there's been a lot of steam recently to kind of expand regulations to see if there's like a way to sort of more broadly protect kids who go online. And I feel like that's the biggest sort of movement that we're seeing now.
Mm-hmm. And what can parents and guardians or even students themselves, if they're worried about this, what can they do to, maybe block this code from gathering their information?
Yeah, there are some technical solutions that are pretty straightforward and easy to use. Ad blockers are a really popular one. Lots of people use those, and that does block this sort of tracking. But other than that, it's a difficult one because this is so pervasive.
That was Colin Letcher of The Markup. Jesus Alvarado produced this episode. I'm Louie Jamali. That's Marketplace Tech. This is 8 p.m.
And at 4:48 on a Wednesday afternoon, it's All Things Considered on your NPR station, News 87. 65 right now here at the UH campus. I'm Dave Pittman, and going back out to the East Tex Freeway right around 3:30 this afternoon, an 18-wheeler ended up on its side on the connector ramp to the eastbound side of 610, the North Loop. That ramp is still off limits. You could try taking the next exit on southbound 69, which would be Cavalcade, and then make a U-turn to northbound 69 to get back to 610.
I'm Victoria Cordova, a member of the Houston Public Media Foundation Board and Young Leaders Council. This station means a lot to me. I started my career at Houston Public Media and am still proud to be part of the University of Houston family. Beyond the educational and news programming, it's about informing and inspiring Houstonians. Quality journalism and storytelling require community investment. Join me and become a member today by donating at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate. Thank you.
Support comes from the Welcome Group and Welcome Wilson Jr., President and CEO. With over 6.5 million square feet of manufacturing and industrial facilities in over 130 locations in Texas and the Southeast. More at welcomegroup.com.
From Beth Wolf Realtors, guiding their clients through the home buying and selling process for the last 45 years. Available to help with real estate transactions and more. Details at bethwolf.com. From the Grand 1894 Opera House in Galveston, presenting the award-winning supergroup, the Duke Ellington Orchestra. Saturday, December 16th, 8 in the evening, thegrand.com. And from NHK World Japan, now available in Houston on Broadcast Channel 8.4 or on Xfinity Channels 304 and 1152. NHK World Japan, a gateway to Japan and Asia. More information at nhk.org.
In 1/2 mile, turn right at the exit onto I-45 towards Galveston.
It's All Things Considered from NPR News. I'm Ari Shapiro.
And I'm Elsa Chang. President Biden made an appeal today to Congress before its holiday recess. He's asking lawmakers to approve funding to Ukraine as the country continues to battle Russia's invasion.
History's going to judge harshly those who turn their back on freedom's cause. We can't let Putin win. Say it again, we can't let Putin win.
Biden's remarks came after he met virtually with G7 leaders and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. But his push was not successful. The Senate failed to pass a key procedural hurdle on a $110 billion package this evening, as many Republicans are leery of spending more money on Ukraine.
Meanwhile, many in Ukraine's tech sector are contributing to the country's defense while dreaming of a future beyond the war. NPR cybersecurity correspondent Jenna McLaughlin brings us that story.
I'm at an office in downtown Kyiv. It feels like a Silicon Valley startup, complete with fancy coffee machines, nap pods, and even a few office cats. Except the bottom floor is now a bomb shelter. We're talking about an innovative new product, Spy Bus.
By myself, as I don't want to bother other lesson girls.
Sergei Krivoblotsky is the head of technical research and development at MacPaw, a Ukrainian software company. He made an app that scans your phone for other apps connecting to servers in Russia and Belarus to sniff out potential spyware. Thus, Spybuster.
In 1/4 mile, keep left onto I-45 south towards Galveston.
Kind of close to this main.
Companies like MacPaw are a major part of the war. They volunteer time, services, to key part of Ukraine's future. They need to figure out how to help win the war, but also revive Ukraine's economy. They want to bring home Ukraine's growing diaspora of refugees and expats. Because technology and IT might be the country's best hope. Right now, though, they need to make it through each day.
Even if it's a good day, it feels like something heavy is just around your shoulder.
That's Oleg Stugulenko, the head of MacPaw's new cybersecurity division.
So maybe my hope,
Proceed on I-45 south.
Removing that weight, the war. Stugulenko is weary but confident that Ukraine's tech experts will win the day. But not everyone is so sure. At a cafe 20 minutes away from MacPaw's office, I sit down with Makita Kanish. He used to be in government intelligence, and now he's a cybersecurity businessman and activist. We meet in the afternoon. He's not exactly a boring person.
Hackers normally work since usually or apply for war. So it's actually my study of the day. Yeah, the first person I meet today.
His first meeting of the day. Kanish is smoking a hookah pipe seemingly endlessly in between jokes and curse words. To say he was skeptical of the government and its willingness to work with Ukrainian cybersecurity experts would be putting it lightly.
The hackers are not able to test any type of websites if they're not allowed.
Not allowed. Basically, he's saying the government didn't want to let him and his colleagues test their servers for vulnerabilities. In fact, back in 2020, the government raided his and other experts' homes, thinking they'd hacked Odessa Airport, when they actually tried to report a security flaw to try to secure it, they said. But more importantly, Kanish insists the government didn't listen to hackers' warnings, that war was coming in the winter of 2022, and that they were unprepared for what's happened since. Ukraine's government officials would contest that. By all accounts, they've done a good job defending the country's networks. But Kanish wants to go on the offense. That's partly why he says he took matters into his own hands and started a hacker collective called Hack Your Mom, soon after Russia launched its full-scale invasion. Kanish is an extreme example of an outspoken critic. There are others who are less willing to speak up, who have similar concerns about corruption and lack of skill inside the government. In fact, multiple top cybersecurity officials, including one I met with while in Kyiv, Victor Girard, were recently arrested. They're facing corruption charges. It's part of a long-time battle inside Ukraine's borders. But many more are optimistic that war might actually be an opportunity for a new generation to lead, for an industry to be revolutionized. I meet Natalia Bushraneska in an office building on the outskirts of Kyiv. It feels like a tech campus. I'm here to learn about a new tech incubator. It's called Brave One. It's designed to streamline the pipeline between technologists and the Ukrainian military.
I would say sometimes we're calling ourselves like translators, from a technology market to military market.
She's the project manager, and she's already juggling more than 400 applications for funding and inclusion in the incubator.
Already some really nice solutions within electronic warfare. We've found some solutions within antennas, solution within robotic systems, so it was our first one. Now we're working and we understand that it's
There's everything from underwater drones to robots. Some products have been adapted from their previous uses too. Drones built for agriculture turned into high-end surveillance systems. Virtual reality programs designed for gaming turned into training modules. Natalia Kucherneska has to figure out how to turn those ideas into reality.
Actually, my previous job was Ministry of Economy of Ukraine, so I was an advisor to the first deputy minister. My best skill is actually to make things happen.
The ultimate goal is to organize a torrent of innovation, make sure it's practically useful during the war. It's a running joke in Ukraine that everyone has their own drone factory in their garages. Some are taking things a step further. Roman Seljuk, the Ukrainian former manager of the Moscow Exchange, left Russia for good in 2014 after the invasion of Crimea. Now, he's using his skills in finance to invest in Ukraine's future, its technology. He's betting big on Ukrainian drones.
For example, one of the companies I invested in is a company that makes these heavy, they're rebuilding agri drones to actually carry 30 kilograms of explosives. It's unreal. When the thing flies, it's absolutely silent. And this is what Russians call this Baba Yaga, like boogeyman, because it looks,
The Baba Yaga, the boogeyman. We meet at an old office building in Kyiv, overlooking Taras Shevchenko Square, honoring the famous Ukrainian poet. Some of the decorative elements of the facade have been blown clear off after a Russian missile hit a children's park just below. But now, the park is rebuilt. Seljuk has a grand vision for rebuilding all of Ukraine.
Rebuilding of Ukraine will have to be across Europe, like international project. I mean, I want to see people from all over the world and companies from all over the world coming here, helping. This has to be. Ukraine has helped unite Europe. In these last few years, helped unite NATO, and I really hope that actually, rebuilding it, that our politicians won't stand in the way.
He makes a little dig at the ongoing corruption scandals. Then, Seljuk gets a little emotional, a little wistful, making the pitch for Ukrainians to come home too.
That we will open up the country to capital, to people, and our guys will come back as well, because it is, I personally think, the best place on earth to live. It's so beautiful.
Perhaps that dream will one day be a reality after the war. Jenna McLaughlin, NPR News, Kyiv. This is NPR News.
Support for NPR comes from this station and from Fisher Investments. As a fiduciary, Fisher Investments is obligated to act in the client's best interest. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. Investments in securities involved in From Huge Shareholder Trusts, sharing companies of restoring trust and solving problems on the After the Fact podcast. Available at hugetrusts.com/afterthefact. For Procter & Gamble, maker of the line a daily supplement designed by gastroenterologist Steve More at probiotics.com. And from listeners like you who donate to this, our station.
Support comes from members like you from MD Anderson Cancer Center, where a single blood donation can help make a life-saving difference for 3 cancer patients. Information on donating blood is important at MD Anderson. So the car is problems now on the road in downtown area northbound 69 right after I-45. So right around the Grady Pierce exit, we see a couple of right lanes blocked there, and heading in on the Katy eastbound I-10 at Gessner, a couple of center lanes taken up with wreck, and still have the overturned 18-wheeler blocking access to the connector ramp from southbound East Tex Freeway to get to the eastbound side of the North Loop 610. 65 degrees right now here at the UH campus, and this is your NPR station, KUHF Houston News 88.7, a service of the University of Houston. It's 5 o'clock.
War crimes charges against 4 people affiliated with the Russian military.
It's Wednesday, December 6th, and this is All Things Considered from NPR News.
I'm Elsa Chang.
And I'm Ari Shapiro. Also this hour, how Ukraine is preparing for Russian attacks on its electrical grid.
And conservative groups are planning how Donald Trump could expand executive power if he becomes president again.
It's just a dangerous sign. It really suggests that a president wants to aggrandize more authority and more power, and that should make everybody nervous.
Meanwhile, safety advocates want cars to come with new technology that helps reduce speeding.
We have a public health crisis, and we have to take action to prevent all of those fatalities and serious injuries.
And millions of federal student loans will be canceled.
We'll explain after this news.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Nora Rahm. A lawsuit targeting fraudulent electors in Wisconsin's 2020 election was partly settled today. The defendants jointly admitted their actions were used to improperly overturn President Biden's victory in the state. Wisconsin Public Radio's Anya Van Wagtentonk reports.
The 10 defendants did not admit to wrongdoing, but agreed not to serve as electors in future races involving former President Trump. Mary McCord directs a legal center at Georgetown that co-filed the lawsuit. She said the Wisconsin electors were testing out a scheme that culminated in the January 6th Capitol insurrection.
This narrative about these alternate slates of electors, as they were calling them, from the swing states was also used by many of those who engaged in the attack on the Capitol.
The lawsuit also names Ken Chesbrough, the alleged designer of the GOP electors plan. He has pleaded guilty in an election interference case in Georgia. The case against him in Wisconsin is ongoing. For NPR News, I'm Anya Van Wagtentonk in Madison.
Just 4 Republican presidential candidates will take the stage for tonight's debate in Alabama. NPR's Franca Ordonez has more.
It'll be the smallest lineup so far this election cycle, with just Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley, entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy, and former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie taking part in the Tuscaloosa debate. Once again, the frontrunner, former President Donald Trump, will not join his rivals. But the stakes are high for those who will be on stage, especially Haley and DeSantis. They've been duking it out for who is seen as the strongest alternative to Trump. But it'll also be an important night for Christie, who has come under pressure to step down so that more non-Trump voters can coalesce behind Haley or DeSantis. And he'll try to prove why he deserves to still be in the race. Franco Ordonez, NPR News.
The head of the biggest of the big banks came out against cryptocurrency during a hearing on Capitol Hill today. As NPR's David Gura reports, J.P. Morgan Chase CEO Jamie Dimon says he is deeply opposed to crypto.
Jamie Dimon has called cryptocurrency a hyped-up fad and something that's like a pet rock. But this was his most forceful condemnation yet at a Senate Banking Committee hearing in response to a question from Senator Elizabeth Warren. Massachusetts Democrat asked Dimon why crypto is so popular with criminals and rogue nations.
All these systems have built up over many years. Know your customers, sanctions, OFAC. They can bypass all of that. If I was the government, I'd close it down.
The U.S. government has been cracking down on crypto. It announced a multi-billion-dollar settlement with Binance last month after that company pleaded guilty to anti-money laundering violations. David Gura, NPR News, New York.
Stock prices fell today. The Dow lost 70 points. The S&P was down 17. This is NPR News.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Gail DeLuder. The state-appointed leader of Houston's public school system says more than 100 campuses would have failed to meet state standards last school year. Only 9 schools failed to meet standards a previous year. That was before the system became more stringent. News 88.7's Dominic Anthony Walsh tells us a new rating system is currently held up in court.
Earlier this year, more than 100 other public school systems sued the Texas Education Agency over the new rating system. It's much more strict and, opponents argue, not representative of reality.
When your system statewide is struggling like that, it's not individual educators or schools or superintendents. You have a statewide issue.
Steve Amstutz is an education consultant and former HISD principal. He says the state has subjected school districts to austerity conditions while cranking up accountability.
The funds coming into school districts is not kept up, even with inflation. Right? We haven't even held steady. HISD seems to be facing that, and with a decline in enrollment, becomes even harder.
HISD Superintendent Mike Miles says the results show the district needs his controversial reform program, which he plans to expand to more schools in the future. I'm Dominic Anthony Walsh, News 88.7.
A progressive Democrat who's challenging Congresswoman Lizzie Fletcher in next year's primary is facing accusations of sexual harassment from a former staffer. Chisley has now filed a civil suit against Corbez One. University political science professor Mark Jones says the consequences could be serious.
Lieutenant Juan is able to discredit the complaint without being seen as being beating up on the victim. His campaign is in a difficult position.
Juan released a statement to Houston public media denying the allegations. The Rockets play the Oklahoma City Thunder at Toyota Center tonight. Tip-off is at 7. High tonight, overnight low expected around 49 degrees. I'm Gail DeButter, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include the Lodestar Foundation, inspired by the principle that helping someone else